Hello, my name is Chris Herrod. I'm running for the 3rd Congressional District. And many people have asked, why am I in this race? I actually ran last summer in the special election. There was 3 people in the primary, nobody got a majority, and so when I found out that there was only going to be 1 signature gather, I decided to run again. And part of my motivation is because of the incumbent's position on what happened after the terrible shooting in Florida. But 2 days after that, he sent out a flyer that said, we need to look at all options. Well, for me, I'm not okay with that. You know, if we want to look at what we need to do with school safety, you know, if gun-free zones work, which I don't believe they do, that's fine. We can talk about possibly arming teachers, which I am perfectly comfortable with for those that want to carry weapons. We can talk about those, but we can't talk about taking away rights. Especially, you know, the incumbent has talked about raising the age limit to 21 to buy a rifle. Well, to me, that's insulting to our young men and women who can carry automatic weapons around the world, and yet then couldn't come back and buy a 22 here back in Utah. For me, the Second Amendment is not theoretical. I've taught 2 different universities in the former Soviet Union. I actually have friends that lost both of their parents to Stalin's gulags less than a decade after Stalin and Lenin took the guns. My wife grew up in the Ukraine, where Stalin starved to death 7 to 11 million Ukrainians just because they didn't have the ability to defend themselves when the government came and took the weapons. I have a friend that grew up in Ethiopia. The communists took over, took away his family guns, and within a decade he was having to shout "Red Terror, Red Terror, Red Terror" as teenagers were mowed down with machine guns. And so for me, we don't talk about that. And I think we need to have a history lesson. We need to make sure that our children understand the importance of the Second Amendment. And so for me, our constitutional rights are under attack like they've never been before. And so I'm very grateful for the Utah Gun Exchange that they've been willing to stand up and defend the Second Amendment. I was grateful that about 2 months ago they had a rally up on Capitol Hill. I wasn't invited, but I went anyway, and ended up speaking. And I thought, this is great. There's about 400, 500 people rallying for the Second Amendment. We had our rally, and I was happy to see people of all ages. We had teenagers that were speaking about the importance of the Second Amendment, and we had the older generation that was there. But when we got done, we went around to the front side of the Capitol, and I was absolutely frightened. There was 8,000 to 10,000 people screaming for gun control. And the thing that I was very saddened about is that there was 2,000 children on the steps of the Capitol that were being used as political pawns. And that saddened me, and as I listened, many of those children were genuinely frightened. And so I actually see 2 tragedies in the school shooting. One was obviously the victims of the person that should have been stopped that had numerous interactions with the police. But the other tragedy is that our school children are being traumatized. They're out there believing that school is not safe. And the fact of the matter is, it's never been safer for a child to grow up in America than it is today. And the fact that people don't say is that school is one of the safest places for people to grow up in, or to be in. And yet our children are being frightened about that. The fact of the matter is, as these advocates, a child is 800 times more likely to die from a traffic accident than to be shot at school. 400 times more likely to die from underage drinking than to be shot at school. 200 times more likely to die from accidental poisoning than to be shot at school. And yet nobody talks about banning alcohol or banning cars or banning bleach. And so it's important that we stand up and give these children a proper perspective, because I really think what the left is doing right now is child abuse. They are using our children as political pawns. And so we need brave and courageous leaders to stand up and give proper perspective and talk about the benefits, talk about the million crimes that are avoided because people carry. We need to show both sides. If you like what I say, you can go to my website at herrodforcongress.com. There's a place where you can donate. I would appreciate that. Also, you can volunteer. But again, I would look at my record. When I was in the Utah House, I had an A rating from the NRA. And so, again, go to my website, herrodforcongress.com. Thank you.